Happy Saturday, everybody, and happy 28 days of health. How are you doing? Now, I know I get to visit with you each and every night. I get to come to you with some topics that I think are relevant, but we got to pay attention to something. You guys were about 2 weeks into this, which means you are working towards better habits. You're working towards implementing just one thing more, right? That was the whole mantra about this program, was that we could do small things, move ourselves forward, and start to create a wellness lifestyle, a life by design, right? It was 28 days of health. It was 28 days of glowing skin from within. It was 28 days of protect your gut, or 28 days, right, of de-stress. One of the things that I wanted to implement throughout this 28 days was, however you define it, right, was a gratitude for what your body is capable of. So I could have just as likely have called this 28 days of gratitude for my body, right? I want you each and every day to feel grateful for what your body is capable of and what you are committing to give your body, your brain, your spirit the very best. Because when you give your spirit the best, when you give your body the best, whether we define that as you've chosen to eat better food, you have chosen to supplement towards your age, your activity level, your gender, whether that is you have decided to institute a new fitness program, weight management program, mindfulness practice, whatever you decided to do, I want you to know that you told your body that you are grateful for your body. And that is something that was heard throughout all of the cells in your body. Now, over the last 2 weeks, some of you may feel like it took a little bit of time to get started. Maybe this isn't halfway through for you. Maybe you've just started on your 28 days and you're going to take this into the weeks in December. That is also perfect because the magic happens when we get started. Maybe you're familiar with that proverb. Beginning is easy, continuing is hard. So right now at 2 weeks in, I want you to ask yourself, what inspired you to get started? What is it that you do that keeps you motivated? Do you have a morning ritual that keeps you motivated? Do you have a reason you're doing this? Maybe someone in the family is doing it with you. Maybe you're doing this as part of a social community. Maybe you have just done some introspection and you say, I'm worth it, right? We discussed this a little bit last night where I said, you're 100% worth it, right? So the first step in this halfway mark for you is to remind yourself why you're doing this. And then ask yourself, how do I define health? And am I closer to that goal, right? I want to think about what motivates us, because what motivates us ultimately ends up inspiring other people. It's important to know this because we're going to identify in these next 2 weeks not just how to keep this going, but we are going to identify how or what is rewarding you so that we can definitely anchor those in throughout the day, the things that give you reward, right? Because let's be honest, you guys, while we might be 2 weeks in, and while this is called 28 days of health, wellness really isn't something that you stop and start, right? This is something that you're going to do in perpetuity. This is something that you're going to continue to do, that you're going to continue to advance in. And to do that, you need to find out where those reward stops on your journey are going to be. Now, I often talk about fitness, and it's because that's my reward journey. That is what gives me that dopamine hit that you can do this, right? It's all built off of numbers. How many pull ups can you do? How many push ups can you do, right? How much weight can you lift in a deadlift? Why is that important? Not because lifting heavy weights is the only way you're supposed to work out, but because I feel like an absolute incredible human being, a superhuman, right? When I'm able to lift heavy weights, it's so rewarding that I say I want to do that again. And I want to share what this feels like with other people. I want to encourage other people to find that spark in them, right? One of my favorite quotes is, is along those lines of keep at it, right? Like a fire consumes everything that is thrown upon it and turns it into light, turns it into a spark, turns it into something that will become, right? It is that point of ignition that I want you to find. So keep at it, right? Like that which gets thrown on a fire, you will create a spark and it will ignite something in you. That is the power here, right? So we're going to find that magic spot. I want you to ask yourself right now, in these last 2 weeks, have I found a magic spot? Have I found something that makes me say, I want more of that. I want to do more of that. Have you found a new recipe that works for you? Have you found a new flavor that you love in food that substituted a sauce or something that wasn't serving you well? Can you share that with other people? Can you inspire other people to make a change, right? Is there something that you're doing fitness wise that has changed everything? Are you getting up early in the morning to that early burst of light, or that early morning light that gives you that burst of immunity? Did you share that health tip with anybody? Because you changed someone's life when you did that. You really moved the needle in somebody's life when you did that. They're not always perceptible, right? The movements that we see, sometimes we have to look back over our shoulder to see them. Sometimes we have to step back. Maybe it's better if we step back. We don't look back, right? Maybe what we need to do is just step back and say, look at what I've done. Look at what I have created, right? So that's where this personal inventory comes from. That's how you identify the magic spot, right? You identify your personal stake in this. I'll tell you a quick story. I'm helping somebody lose weight. And one of the things that she had said in a recent discussion, when I asked her about how she felt like she was doing, she says, I'm really annoyed. And I'm thinking to myself, oh boy, what's coming now, right? And she says, my pants are falling off me. It's really annoying, right? Because she has to keep hiking them up. She's on her last belt loop, those sorts of things. That's that stuff that we want to kind of take a different perspective on, and we want to be like, look at what you have achieved, right? That's a good problem to have. And that's one of the things that I want us to really step into here, right? When we think about stepping into greatness, when we think about stepping into health, I want you to think about those little things that bug you. Like if you're starting to exercise now and you get a little bit of a pain or soreness, I want you to say yes to that, right? Often, one of my favorite lines, a friend of mine, this happened where he was helping a team of women actually get fit. And one of the things that she said is that one of the women on his team said, she said, I'm working out and like I'm getting all vascular, and what do you do with these, right? Because it wasn't like she didn't feel like the veins and things like that were attractive, because this is what you do with it, right? You enjoy your gains. You enjoy what you have done. So what is one of the most practical ways that you can enjoy what you have created? What is one of the more practical ways to keep yourselves motivated? What is one of the practical ways to keep others inspired by what you're doing and come back to that reward, that thing that may feed you to say, I did that. It's just one more. It is this idea of just one more. So if you have reached out to, you're branching out into physical fitness, maybe you've decided to walk briskly, right? What is an example of just one more for you, right? Where you're going to look into the distance, and whether it's a mailbox, a lamp post, um, um, uh, a well, a landmark, right? But I want you to think of the lamp posts. I want you to think of driveways. I want you to think of mailboxes. And I want you to say to yourself, just one more, right? You just need to get past one more driveway further than you did the day before. One more mailbox past where you went today. Because at some point, this won't be a run, right? This won't be a brisk walk. It will be a jog, and then it will be a run. And even if it always stays a brisk walk, it's further than it was the day before, because it was just one more mailbox. It was just one more light post, just one more driveway. And you were already ahead of where you were the day before. You were already in these small movements that give huge rewards. You are creating your health, right? What's another example? Maybe you're not great at push-ups. So I just need you to do one more. You're going to count out 5, and then maybe you're on your knees when you're counting these out. But you're going to do just one more, and then it's 6, and then it's 7, and at the end of a month, you're up there. Maybe you're not up to 28 or 30 because that's not where you started, right? But you're moving in that direction. You're not backing up. As I always love to say, no one got less fit trying this out. No one got less fit today by doing one more, right? Maybe this has nothing to do with fitness, and you're not rewarded in the same way by picking up heavy weights, right? Or doing one more pull-up. Maybe that's not the thing that ignites that fire for you, right? That's not that which has created this inspiration or this motivation for you. Maybe it is productivity at work. Maybe it's productivity at home. It's absolutely why I have do a chore, right? Because I have to remind myself to do those things so I don't wake up to chaos. So maybe your productivity is what we're talking about. It's making sure that you put a cap on the end of that day. I have a sign in my office at work that says if it only takes 2 minutes to do it right now. Because we fill up our lives with this task confetti, these little things that we could do but we never do, right? What we end up doing is saying, well, no, I'm going to be more productive with big blocks of time. And while that may be true, we live in an environment where we don't always have big blocks of time. So what are you doing with those little time confettis, right? That little burst of time that you have, but it's not a sufficient amount of time to get real meaningful work done. Are you scrolling on your social media, right? Are you looking at your Instagram? Are you doing something that is not productive? Or could you be answering an email? Could you be sending a thank you note? Could you be organizing something for that next 90-minute sprint to get your work done instead of one more scroll through my Facebook, right? One more look to see how many likes or shares I got. How about doing something that adds to your productivity list, that adds to I got that done, when you step back and you feel great about what you've got done. The other thing I want us to pay attention to in this idea of just one more, right, is, one more kind word. You guys, we could create a list. Help me down below. Create a list. One more kind word. One more kind thought about myself, one more self reflection or affirmation, right? One more smile at another individual, right? One more, act of kindness or letting somebody know that you are grateful for them. These are the types of one more that really feed the soul. They feed your community. They feed your immunity. One of my favorite sayings is community builds immunity, and that's exactly what we're doing. But I'm going to ask you to also kind of put the brakes on something that too often happens. And this is why one more is such a powerful place to be, because it's possible and we believe it's possible. Isn't that true? We believe it's possible. When you ask someone to go do a whatever weight on their deadlift or that many pull-ups, we tell somebody, this is where I'm going to take you, right? I'm going to help you get organized. I'm going to use that as an example. If someone right now were to walk into my home, into my office, and say, I'm going to help you get organized, you know what I wouldn't believe was going to happen? That this girl was going to get organized. I wouldn't believe it, right? But if they said, we're going to start here and we're going to do this every day. So when the mail comes in or when assignments come in, this is where they go, right? I would believe I could do that. I'd be like, oh, yeah, sure. I can do that, right? And then what would happen at the end of 30 days is I would find myself with a far more organized desk, a far more organized filing system, right? So one of the things that I want when I think put the brakes on, caution yourself, is to not believe that you're capable of something. And that's why the last 2 weeks have been so powerful. Because what have you done? You have created belief. You have created, I can do it, right? You have created a space for yourself where you say, I'm worth it and I'm going to continue to do this. Because as we said, wellness and health practices are not a stop and start situation, right? Just like no one ever said, I have enough closet space, no one ever said, I have enough health, right? So this is something that we are going to continue to do. We're going to continue to appreciate what our body is capable, what our mind is capable of, and what sharing this with another person is capable of. So we've built a system of I can do it, right? We've gotten to that point where we believe it's possible. So now we're going to make sure that we remind ourselves and others that are just starting on their journey to not spend so much time on their mistakes. If you have not nailed the last 2 weeks, that's fine. We're not going to spend too much time on our mistakes. We're going to be our authentic selves. We're going to congratulate ourselves for taking a swing, right? A swing and a miss is still a swing, and you should appreciate that. You should reflect on that and congratulate yourself for taking that step outward, right? I'd said previously in these last 2 weeks how powerful it is to be courageous, and that to be courageous requires you to be vulnerable. In the absence of vulnerability, there is no courage, right? There is just like, well, I already know how to do that, right? So I want to congratulate you for being courageous and being vulnerable and trying something new. I want to encourage you to create a new habit from here. So while you have maybe started with supplementation, or you've started with a new spice in your recipes, or you've started with a new food, or maybe you've decided to cut out something. A lot of people decided to cut out sugar, right? Sugar in all forms, right? So maybe it wasn't something that you added to your regimen. Maybe you took something out of the regimen and you were so much better for it. What I want you to do today is think about tomorrow as we kind of get soulful and we think about where do I want to be spiritually, mentally, right? Emotionally. I want you to ask yourself, can I take it to another level? I want you to ask yourself if you could do a little bit more, and what would that look like? And what are you willing to commit to? I also want you to go back over the last 2 weeks or the last 30 days or the last 3 years. What has it been for you, right? It's not just these last 2 weeks, But if you've made a big change in your health practices, you've added supplementation, you started eating a different way, I want you to remind yourself what you did and what benefit you have received from doing that. Why? Because human nature is what human nature is. We get used to things, right? We know this. We see something that we like online, we must have it, we want to buy it, and we get it, and it brings us joy, but it doesn't continue to bring us joy, right? Because we get used to it. This is part of adaptation. We adapt to those things, which is why I think it's powerful to put yourself in a position where you don't have things, or you're in an uncomfortable position, a position you could take yourself out of, which is why I like people to put themselves in the cold weather in the morning, because obviously you could go inside and you could get warm, right? But instead you're going to create and fortify the self, and you're going to remind yourself how grateful you are for the things that you do have. So one of the things that's really powerful in maintaining that habit, remember, beginning is easy, continuing is hard, right? So one of the things that we need to appreciate is in our human nature, we get used to things, we adapt to things. And unfortunately, we have to remind ourselves to be grateful. We have to remind ourselves where we came from, what we have accomplished. So whether that is 2 weeks ago, right? That is 30 days ago, that is 3 weeks ago, or wow, that's less than 30 days, right? Um, it is 3 years ago. I want you to say, I want you to remind yourself how far you've come, right? So that you can be grateful for what your body is capable of, what your spirit is capable of. And that's going to be very helpful to keep you moving on, whether that's by adding a new solution, fitness. I recommend just one more. If you're not doing body weight squats, I want you to start doing them tomorrow, even if you only do one, because the next day you're going to do two, then it's going to be three, and it's going to continue to move on from there. If it is sharing a kind word with you, yourself, or other people, let's start with just one more. And let's change the world around us. Until I get to see you tomorrow, go be healthy, go be brilliant.